So I had the unfortunate pleasure of running across a delightful video by Steve Shives, in which he describes his top 5 issues of the week. All of them are pretty much meaningless and pointless, but let's look at 2. The first clip was about a Trump tweet.
Number 1, Trump tweets anti-Clinton meme created by white supremacist. Donald Trump shared an image of Hillary Clinton with the words, "most corrupt candidate ever," inside of a 6-pointed star. Trump denied that the image was anti-Semitic, claiming that the 6-pointed star was meant to represent a sheriff's badge.
Congratulations, Steve. You think clip art is anti-Semitic. Really? Who can look at that and think, yep, that's clearly anti-Semitic and a Jew-hating star? Steve, this is a Star of David. They are typically blue or golden, not red. This one looks a little bit different, wouldn't you say? Maybe it was supposed to represent a sheriff's badge. But let's continue on.
One problem with that, the image originated on the account of another Twitter user whose timeline was littered with blatant racism, misogyny, and anti-Muslim bigotry. Hey, just like Donald Trump.
So, guilty by association. Great logic, Steve. Sure, the source should have been vetted more, but does this invalidate the message? No, Hillary Clinton is probably the most corrupt candidate ever. But go on, Steve.
Because Donald Trump is a racist, one of the 2 major political parties in my country, nominated an unabashed racist to be President of the United States.
Steve, please provide me with a quote where Trump has been an unabashed racist. You might be able to claim his comments were bigoted towards Muslims and others, but not racist. Muslims are not a race, and neither are Mexicans. Steve thinks he can just drop the "you're a racist" bomb and be done with it. But you gotta be able to prove it. Oh, just one more thing about the Star of David. Trump's daughter is Jewish. Also, Steve, have you been drinking? Slurred speech, uneven eyes, incoherent speaking? Although that's pretty normal for you. Yep, I think you've been drinking. Hell, I might even have a drink or 2 to loosen up before things, but how many have you had? And now for his pinnacle of what the issues of the week have been.
Number 5, a friendly reminder that American police like to shoot black folks.
Really, Steve? You want to break the ice like that? Well, go ahead.
Last week, 2 more black American men who seemed to be posing no immediate threat were fatally shot.
Seemed to be posing no immediate threat? Tell that to the store clerk that was just robbed, or the homeless man that Alton Sterling pointed his gun at. A gun which was later removed from his pocket after the fight with the police.
By police. Their names are Alton Sterling of Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
It's pronounced Louisiana. Oh yeah, that's right, you've been drinking. Never mind.
And Philando Castile of Falcon Heights, Minnesota. Both men apparently were armed at the time, although neither one of them seemed ready to use their guns to threaten the police who were confronting them. And
are you sure? Do you have all the facts and all of the footage that was recorded? Do we know? Or are you assuming here, Steve?
Philando Castile was a licensed gun carrier.
Philando Castile was pulled over not for having a broken taillight, but rather he matched the description of a suspect that had recently committed an armed robbery. The car that also fled the scene matched his car. He was pulled over by Officer Yanez, a Mexican-American police officer. Was this a tragic incident? Yes, but we don't have all the facts or the evidence in yet. Officer Yanez's attorney has stated he was reacting to the firearm and the way it was being brandished. What does that mean? It is possible that Castile had his gun out. Alton Sterling had recently threatened a person in the parking lot with the gun he had on him. When the police arrived, they had plenty of reason to assume he was in the possession of a firearm. The officers first tried ordering him to lay on the ground. He refused. They then tasered him. He continued to fight and resist the officers. During the fight, the police officers thought he was reaching for his firearm. What other course of action could they have taken? The truth is, Alton was a felon carrying a firearm which would land him back in prison. He did not want to go back to jail at any cost. Unfortunately, this ended up costing him his life. But go on, Steve.
So far in 2016, American police have killed 561 people. Of those, 136 have been black.
And what about the other races? It looked like you were going to say something there. No? Oh, okay. Never mind. Please continue.
Black Americans account for 12% of the overall population, but 24% of those killed so far this year by police.
Blacks also commit about 28% of the crimes in the United States. It's not me saying that. That's 2015 FBI statistics, which we'll go into further in a second.
Alton Sterling was selling CDs in front of a convenience store, and Philando Castile was driving and had been pulled over for a broken taillight. In case you're wondering what they did to deserve it, that's 5.
Again, I already laid out the facts for both. Did either deserve it? No, Steve, they did not. But your characterization of the situation and just straight up falsehoods are so misleading that it leads to more trouble. Since you will not do it, I will look into the facts. As of the making of this video, I have a total number of people killed in the United States this year at 591, not 596, but I'm a few days later, so no real big issue there, Steve. 293 of the 591 people killed by the police in the United States have been white. That's about 49.5%. Of the 293 people killed, 44 of them were unarmed, about 15% of them all. Respectively, 146 blacks have been killed, or about 24.7% of the total, of which 25, or 17%, were unarmed. As of now, the U.S. population is about 77% white and 13% black. Since we're only looking at this year's data, let's look at 2015 so we can get a good idea of how the trends go. According to the FBI statistics, in 2015, whites committed about 69% of all crimes, while blacks committed about 28%. So whites are committing about 8 points lower than their percentage of population, while blacks are committing 15 points higher. The total number of people killed in the United States by police in 2015 was 1,146, of which 581, a little over 50%, were white. 306, a little over 26%, were black. For 2015, police killed 103 unarmed white people and 79 blacks. These numbers are a little disturbing and painful to think about, yes, but these are the numbers. And these are the facts. You should have actually named your video Land of the Free to kill white folks. By the total numbers and by the percentages, whites are killed by far more than blacks by police. And who, pray tell, is killing the blacks? Well, unfortunately, it's other young black men. The language that some use, like you, Steve, is so misleading that it leads to events like Dallas. And sadly, since your video came out, at least 3 more officers have been killed in the city of Baton Rouge. Here's one of the police officers killed. This is an image of Montel Jackson and his son. Is this the type of police officers that are killing young black people in the street, Steve? Or perhaps you're trying to push a failing narrative?